work hard to strike the right amount of intelligence and ignorance. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Have you ever had a crush on someone who technically doesn't exist? Like they're animated, pixelated, scripted? Might sound strange and on the fringe to you, but it can happen. And falling for those fictional characters, well, that might say less about people's fantasies and more about how human love actually works. I'm here with someone who studied all of this. His name is Connor Leshner, and he's a psychology researcher at Trent University. Connor, welcome to the show.
Hi, David. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. This subculture I tried to set up there in the introduction, waifus, husbandos, are we talking about a joke here? Are we talking about a crush? Is it something that looks like a real relationship? For someone who is very confused right now, do you want to give us a high-level overview of this subculture before we kind of dig into the psychology of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So many of your listeners are probably somewhat familiar. They've maybe heard of something like anime, cartoons, anything like that. And anime fans, who are people who obviously watch this a lot, some of them will have these characters who they feel like a strong affinity for, platonic, romantic love for these characters, and they'll call them either waifus and husbandos. And the way we define this in the research is we call them, if a character exists, you would want to have a relationship with them.
Got it. Okay, so let's dig into the psychology of it all. You found that attraction to fictional characters, cartoon characters, kind of mirrors what might look like real world attraction for people. Is that comforting to you? Is it kind of destabilizing on the idea of love that we have? Like what exactly do you make of all that?
Yeah, so I think it's really fascinating that the way we feel toward fictional characters tends to match the way we feel towards real life people. So men are more attracted to physical traits, women are more attracted to the personality. And that's what we see when it's human to human connection as well. Now, do I feel depressed, upset, anxious, terrified of it? I'm going to say at this moment, no, because a lot of the people who have these relationships, they're not really reporting using them as substituting them for those human-human relationships. In fact, some people who do have these relationships are using them just at the time because they might not have those relationships in real life. And as we know, humans are social animals. We want to spend time around other people. And if we don't have those people in our immediate life, sometimes it's good to at least have someone, even if they're not real, to spend that time with.
You know, if someone had a crush on a character from like a Harlequin romance novel 20 years ago, it would just, and as long as it wasn't like an unhealthy level, we wouldn't think twice about it. I'm kind of on your boat here. I don't really think twice about this unless it gets to like, I'm not leaving my house because I only want to hang out with my digital companion. Now, this notion that men are more attracted to like the physical look of these cartoon characters and women to kind of their emotional connection. Can you say more about that? That seems oddly similar to what we might hear about human to human relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were interested in this study and understanding kind of whether this is what we would find. I did some research back in 2020, the 2020s-ish era, the COVID era, everything blends together, looking at robots and how men are more interested in perhaps more intimate connection with robots, while women are more interested in robots as friends. And so what we wanted to do here is we were interested in understanding, well, if it's a fictional character who only exists on a screen, are these patterns similar? And if so, that says a lot about how we approach these fictional characters as potentially real people, whether now or in the future, especially with AI. But yeah, I digress. Men are really interested over and above women when it comes to physical traits. So when they're searching for a character that they're interested in, they will prioritize generally this physical attractiveness, the traits of the character that they're physically attracted to. While women, they're thinking more of these personality traits. Before they consider the physical traits at all, the thing that they consider most important to these relationships is this personality. Do they like the personality of the character? Is this a character they could see themselves spending time around? We have more research going on about whether this matches the more intimate versus platonic dynamic versus just having this close affinity for this relationship. But so far, what we've seen is that it tends to match that expectation.
Well, here's where I want to get slightly philosophical. If someone feels genuine love for a fictional character, is that love any less real than someone who feels love between another person just because the object of that love isn't a person?
See, I think that has to be a person by person experience. So what I would say to that is I think that the love you feel toward a fictional character, like a real person, is going to be strong. It's going to be important, and it's going to be meaningful. It's going to be a character like on any television show. We've all probably seen a show that we like a lot. We want the characters to succeed. And that type of affinity for the character is something that we'd probably see around like a friend or a partner or a child, where it's like, oh, I really want this person to succeed in what they're doing. And a lot of what we tend to see here is that while these characters are targets of love, at least as defined by the individual, people have this genuine care for this character, whether or not it would replace like a marriage or a relationship. I'm not convinced at this moment for that. However, I do think that the affinity we have for these characters, the importance these characters are to us as people, is something that I think is very possible and actually very common.
I'd be remiss if I didn't inject AI into this conversation, because I think in the next 5-10 years, these fictional characters are going to be incredibly lifelike. I think in the next 15-20 years, you may not even be able to tell the difference. As AI gets more interactive and customizable and it gets applied to animated characters on a computer screen, what do you think is going to happen with people who feel genuine love for their animated friends?
So I think there's two sort of areas we have to like expect, I guess, in the sense that the first stage is AI that feels human. In the sense that they can finally offer feedback in the way that a partner perhaps texting you could. You're able to get support, you're able to give support, you're able to have these relationships. If you've seen the movie Her, most of that film tends to have a character that only exists on the character's phone. And that's sort of the first step that we're kind of watching out for right now. We're seeing some people having those experiences with AI. However, the vast majority of people are not. The second step we kind of have to look for is when these AI are able to then inhabit potentially a robot body. As I said, I've looked at robots in the past. And when a robot who can exist in our plane of reality is able to both look human and behave in a believably human way, and then also give the physical feedback as well as the emotional feedback, that is when I think we're going to see a wider adoption of these relationships than we might as long as these characters exist on a screen, even if those characters feel real.
Finally, culturally, there are those that think of this stuff as weird. Perhaps they're judgmental, especially negatively stereotyping men who have waifu characters that they feel are their girlfriends. What do you say to people that kind of make fun of others for having animated companions, I suppose? Like people who laugh at this as the butt end of a joke versus the real people that actually, I don't know, get joy out of interacting with these characters or fantasizing about them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so everyone has something they enjoy. Everyone has a favorite quarterback if they watch sports, or a favorite NBA player, a favorite musician. We all have these relationships with these people that we don't actually know in real life. We might have heard the phrase parasocial relationship in the past, where these people exist in real life and we just don't know them physically, but we still feel like we have this connection with these people. These relationships that people have with fictional characters are not that much different. One might argue that you can never have a relationship with these fictional characters, but at the same time, you can argue that you'd never have a relationship with Tom Brady. You'd never have a relationship with Bruce Springsteen.
Don't tell my girlfriend Miranda that she's not friends with Taylor Swift, please. I'm begging you.
Exactly. And we've seen a huge move with Swifties in the last couple of years where it's become such a big thing. A lot of people think that they know, Taylor Swift or any musician. And I would argue that the relationships that people have with those people, just because they exist in some plane of reality, you're likely to never meet these people. And as a result, it's important to consider that these fictional characters and these fictional relationships are not that much different.
Well, Connor Leshner is a psychology researcher at Trent University in Peterborough, Ontario, Canada. Connor, it has been a joy talking to you about your research. Thanks for being on the show.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.